Welcome to Glisso English. Real life stories.
Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are diving into a situation many of us have faced, being the only one in the room who doesn't understand the secret code. Imagine you're sitting at a crowded lunch table. Everyone is laughing, shouting, and using slang that sounds like a completely different language. You want to join in, but you're afraid that if you speak, you'll say the wrong thing. In this story, The Quiet Outsider, we follow Leo as he navigates the high-pressure world of high school social circles. You will learn how to handle social anxiety, how to decode fast-paced English conversations using context clues, and the importance of staying true to your own voice. Stay tuned until the end for our vocabulary quiz to see how many of today's idioms and expressions you've mastered. Let's get started with Chapter 1, The Invisible Wall. The noise of the cafeteria is a physical wall. It is a chaotic mix of tray clatters, sudden bursts of laughter, and 1,000 overlapping conversations. Leo sits at the far end of the long oak table, his hands gripping a cold apple. To his left, Jax is leaning back, gesturing wildly while describing a party from last Friday night. "It was a total glitch," Jax says, shaking his head. "Absolute mid-energy until Sarah showed up." The others roar with laughter, nodding in a synchronized wave of understanding. Leo feels the familiar tightening in his chest, a knot of confusion that won't untie. He knows what mid means in a dictionary sense, but here it sounds like a sharp weapon. He takes a bite of his apple, hoping the movement of his jaw looks like he is part of the rhythm. Across from him, Chloe is typing fast on her phone, not looking up as she adds her own commentary. "Low-key, the whole vibe was cooked," she mutters, her Tums dancing across the screen. Another wave of agreement ripples through the group, leaving Leo stranded on his own silent island. He searches their faces for a clue, a sign, or a translation, but everyone is speaking a code he hasn't been given. The words fly past him like birds he cannot catch, fast and colorful, and completely out of reach. He considers asking what cooked means in this context, but the thought makes his throat dry. If he asks, the music of the conversation will stop, and all eyes will turn toward his ignorance. He doesn't want to look desperate, and he certainly doesn't want to look like he's studying them. So he practiced the quiet nod, a slow, deliberate movement of the head that suggests he is listening. He adjusts his glasses, trying to hide the fact that his eyes are darting from speaker to speaker. He is a traveler in a land where he knows the grammar, but the soul of the language is hidden. The bell rings, a sharp electronic scream that cuts through the slang and the laughter. Leo stands up, his tray still mostly full, feeling the weight of the invisible wall pushing against him. He has survived the first 20 minutes, but he knows the next chapter of the day will be even harder. The second chapter of the story, The Nod and the Grin, begins as Leo leaves the cafeteria. The hallway is a river of movement, pushing Leo toward his next period of English class. He feels the weight of the silence he just endured, a heavy stone in his stomach. His phone buzzes in his pocket, a notification from a social media group he follows. He looks at the screen and sees a video of Jax and Chloe from 10 minutes ago. They are laughing, using the same words that felt like a closed door to him. Leo realizes he needs a strategy, a way to survive the social landscape without losing his mind. He starts by observing the cool crowd from a safe distance in the library. He notices that not everyone is talking, some are just existing in the space. He practices the slow blink, a subtle way to show he is processing information without being confused. Next, he works on the half grin, a look that says he knows the joke but doesn't need to repeat it. These are his survival tools, his nonverbal dictionary for the high school jungle. In his notebook, he secretly writes down the phrases he heard: glitch, mid,
and cooked. He doesn't look them up yet. He wants to see how they live in the real world. He watches a group of freshmen nearby, noticing how they mimic the older students. They look desperate, their voices too high and their laughter too forced. Leo decides he will not be like them. He will be the quiet observer instead. He finds a spot near the window where the light is soft and the noise is muffled. He practices his new cues in the reflection of the glass, a private rehearsal for tomorrow. The nod must be steady, not too fast, showing a calm and collected energy. The grin must be slight, just enough to show he is part of the moment. He feels a small spark of confidence as he masters the art of the vague smile. It is a shield, a way to protect his dignity while he decodes the secret language. He is no longer just a victim of the invisible wall. He is a student of the unspoken code.
The library is a quiet sanctuary compared to the roaring heat of the cafeteria. Leo finds a corner table behind a row of dusty encyclopedias. He opens his notebook to a blank page and writes the word glitch at the top. He remembers Jax saying the party was a total glitch until Sarah arrived. If Sarah arriving made it better, then a glitch must be something that is broken or wrong. Leo realizes that in the digital world, a glitch is a temporary error in a program. In the social world, it must mean a moment where the vibe or the energy fails. He draws a small circle around the word and adds a definition, a social error or a boring moment. Next, he writes the word cooked, remembering how Chloe used it while staring at her phone. She seemed frustrated, her thumbs moving with a sense of finality. If something is cooked, it is finished, done, or perhaps ruined beyond repair. Leo thinks about a burnt piece of toast. It is cooked too much to be eaten. He smiles to himself, feeling a small rush of victory as the puzzle pieces click together. Finally, he looks at the word mid, the simplest of the three, but the most common. It sounds like middle or mediocre, neither great nor terrible, just average. To these students, being average is the ultimate insult, a sign of being forgettable. Leo realizes they aren't using a new language, they're just repurposing old words for a new era. He feels like a detective in a movie, uncovering the hidden layers of a secret society. He watches a group of seniors walk past, listening for the rhythm of their sentences. One of them mentions that the upcoming math test is cooked, and Leo understands perfectly. He doesn't feel the need to join in yet, but the knot in his chest begins to loosen. The unspoken code is no longer a solid wall. It is a fence with gaps he can see through. He closes his notebook, feeling a strange sense of power in his newfound knowledge. He is ready for the next lunch period, not as a victim, but as an observer with a map.
Confidence is a dangerous thing when it is brand new. Leo walks into the cafeteria on Thursday with his shoulders slightly higher than usual. He has his map now, his decoded list of words tucked safely in his mind. He sits at the end of the table, listening to Jax complain about a new video game. "The graphics are amazing," Jax says, "but the gameplay is just, I don't know." Leo sees his opening, a perfect gap in the conversation, like a moving target. "It sounds a bit mid," Leo says, his voice a fraction too loud for the space. The table goes silent, the rhythmic clatter of forks hitting plastic suddenly stopping. Jax blinks, looking at Leo as if a piece of the furniture had just spoken. Chloe tilts her head, her thumb hovering over her phone screen in mid-air. "Mid?" Jax repeats, his eyebrows knitting together in a confused V shape. "Yeah, like average," Leo says, feeling the heat rise from his neck to his cheeks. Jax lets out a short, sharp laugh that doesn't feel like a celebration. "Bro, that game is a masterpiece," Jax says, turning back to the others. "It's the opposite of mid." Leo feels the invisible wall slam shut, thicker and colder than it was on Monday. He realized too late that he used the right word for the wrong opinion. He tried to join the rhythm, but he stepped on the lead singer's toes instead. Chloe gives him a look that is half pity and half annoyance before returning to her text. Leo takes a long, slow drink of his water, trying to swallow the lump in his throat. He learned the what, but he hasn't mastered the when or the how. The quiet nod would have been safer than the loud misstep. He feels like a scientist who blew up his own lab by mixing the wrong chemicals. He realizes that slang isn't just about definitions, it is about shared feelings. He goes back to his vague smile, but this time it feels like a mask of defeat. The unspoken code has a second layer. You have to belong before you can speak.
The sting of the silence at the lunch table follows Leo into the next week. He sits in his usual spot, but his notebook stays closed in his backpack. He feels like a ghost haunting the edges of a conversation he no longer tries to join. Jax and Chloe are debating a new movie, their voices rising and falling in a familiar rhythm. Leo looks down at his tray, focusing on the way the fluorescent lights reflect in his apple juice. Suddenly, he feels a presence to his right, a quiet shifting of a chair. A girl named Maya sits down, her movements careful and deliberate. She doesn't have a phone in her hand, and she isn't wearing the latest branded hoodie. Leo has seen her before in his history class, always sitting in the back row. She opens a book, a thick paperback with a worn cover and yellowed pages. Jack says something fast and sharp, using a word that Leo hasn't decoded yet. The table laughs, but Maya doesn't look up from her chapter. Leo catches her eye for a split second, a brief flash of recognition between two islands. Maya gives a tiny, microscopic shake of her head, a signal only Leo can see. It isn't a gesture of anger, it is a gesture of shared exhaustion. She is also listening to the secret code, and she is choosing not to play the game. Leo feels a sudden, cool wave of relief wash over his burning cheeks. He isn't a broken machine in a room full of perfect ones. He is just a different kind of machine, one that prefers a different frequency. Maya turns a page, her finger tracing the line of text with a steady hand. She doesn't need a vague smile or a quiet nod to feel like she belongs. She belongs to herself, and that realization hits Leo like a bolt of lightning. He takes a bite of his sandwich, and for the first time, it doesn't taste like cardboard. He has found a silent ally, someone who speaks the language of being yourself. The invisible wall is still there, but now there is someone sitting on his side of it.
The school bell rings with a heavy industrial chime, signaling the start of Tuesday. In English class, the teacher, Mr. Harrison, stands at the whiteboard with a marker in hand. For the next 2 weeks, you will work in pairs on a comparative literature project, he announces. Leo holds his breath, praying he isn't paired with Jax or someone who will make him feel small. Leo, you'll be working with Maya, Mr. Harrison says, pointing to the back of the room. Leo exhales, a quiet puff of air that feels like a heavy weight lifting off his chest. He moves his desk next to Maya's, noticing the stack of notes she has already prepared. They are supposed to analyze a classic poem, looking for themes of identity and masks. I was thinking about the mask the poet wears, Maya says, her voice steady and clear. Leo is surprised by how different she sounds when she isn't sitting at the crowded lunch table. It's like they have a project voice and a real voice,
Leo adds, thinking of his own struggle. Away from the pressure of the secret code, Leo finds his words flowing like a river. He explains his ideas using complex sentences and precise vocabulary he was afraid to use before. Maya listens, nodding not out of habit, but because she actually understands his point. Leo realizes he has spent so much time trying to be cool that he forgot he was smart. He enjoys the precision of the academic language, the way it allows him to say exactly what he means. However, a small part of him still wonders if he can ever bridge the gap between these two worlds. Could he ever talk to Jax about poetry? Could he ever talk to Maya using the slang from the lunch table? The contrast between his real voice and the lunchroom code feels like a canyon. He writes a brilliant paragraph about the unspoken expectations of society, and Maya smiles. "This is good, Leo. You have a lot to say when you aren't trying to hide." Leo looks at his reflection in the dark screen of his laptop, seeing a face he finally recognizes. He is a good student, a deep thinker, and a person who values the truth of words. The bridge is under construction, and for the first time, Leo is the one holding the tools.
The digital world feels like a second school building that never closes its doors. Leo lies on his bed on Friday night, the blue light of his phone illuminating his face. He opens a popular video app and searches for the terms he heard at the lunch table. He finds thousands of short clips explaining the top 10 slang words you need to know. A creator with bright hair and a loud voice shouts into the camera about being rizless. Leo realizes that the secret code moves faster than the actual seasons of the year. A word that was cool on Monday is already cringe by Friday afternoon. He watches a tutorial on how to have aura, which seems to be about how you stand. He feels a deep, aching exhaustion in his chest as he scrolls through the endless feed. To keep up with the table, he would have to study these videos every single night. It is like a second set of homework, but there are no grades and no final exams. He sees a video of Jax and Chloe doing a synchronized dance in the school hallway. They look effortless, their movements matching the beat of a song Leo doesn't know. Leo wonders if they are also watching these tutorials at night, practicing their aura. Or does it come naturally to them, like breathing or blinking their eyes? He feels a sudden surge of frustration at the digital dictionary in his hand. He is chasing a ghost, a shifting shadow that changes every time he gets close. He puts his phone face down on his desk, the room suddenly plunging into darkness. He thinks about the poem he is analyzing with Maya, the one about the masks people wear. The internet is just a giant factory for masks, producing thousands of them every hour. He realizes that fitting in the digital age is a race with no finish line. He closes his eyes, trying to remember the sound of his real voice from the project. He doesn't want to be a creator or a follower. He just wants to be a person. The digital dictionary hasn't helped him belong. It has only made him feel tired.
The air in the cafeteria feels thicker than usual on Monday morning. Leo sits at the familiar oak table, his tray resting between Jax and Chloe. Jax is holding his phone, showing a video of a streamer yelling about a glaze. "That's pure glaze, honestly," Chloe says, rolling her eyes at the screen. "Massive glaze," Jax agrees, throwing his head back in a practiced laugh. Leo feels the old familiar knot in his stomach, the urge to search his digital dictionary. He knows he should just nod or give the vague smile he practiced in the mirror, but he thinks of the poem he and Maya analyzed and the exhaustion of the Friday night scroll.
The word glaze hangs in the air like a heavy mist that he cannot see through. "What does that actually mean?" Leo asks, his voice cutting through the laughter. The table goes silent, the same cold silence that followed his mistake in Chapter 4. Jack stops laughing and looks at Leo, his phone still glowing in his palm. Leo braces himself for the mockery, for the cringe label, for the invisible wall. "Glaze?" Jax asks, scratching the back of his neck as he looks at Chloe. Chloe looks at the ceiling, her confident posture suddenly sagging just an inch. "It's like when you overpraise someone?" Chloe says, her voice sounding uncertain. "No, it's like when you're being a fanboy," Jax interrupts, but he doesn't sound sure. Leo realizes with a jolt of electricity that they are arguing about the definition. Two other students at the end of the table lean in, admitting they thought it meant lying. Leo sees the secret code crack open, revealing that half the table was just guessing. They were all wearing the same mask, nodding along to words they didn't fully own. Jax shrugs and laughs, but this time the sound is lighter, more human, and less rhythmic. "I don't know, man, it's just what people say," Jax admits, tossing a fry into his mouth. Leo feels a sudden massive weight lift off his shoulders and float toward the ceiling. The breaking of the script didn't destroy his social life, it humanized his peers. He isn't the only traveler in a strange land. Everyone is just trying to find the map.
The authentic English that Leo once feared now feels like a tool he finally knows how to use. The project with Maya is finished, and they stand at the front of the classroom on Friday. Leo holds his notes, but he doesn't look down at them as he speaks to the group. He explains the themes of the poem using clear, strong words like isolation and conformity. He doesn't use the slang from the lunch table, but he doesn't sound like a textbook either. He sounds like himself, a person who has something important to say. Jax is sitting in the second row, leaning back with his arms crossed over his chest. Leo expects Jax to look bored, but instead, Jax is actually listening to the analysis. After the presentation, Leo walks back to his desk, feeling a quiet hum of success. "That was deep, bro," Jax says as Leo passes him, his voice low and genuine. "Thanks, Jax," Leo replies, not with a vague smile, but with a real one. He realizes that he doesn't need to glaze or cringe to get respect from his peers. He can use his real voice to bridge the gap between being smart and being social. At lunch, the conversation is still fast and the slang is still there, but the air is different. Leo sits down and joins a discussion about a new movie everyone is watching. "The ending was a bit confusing for me," Leo says, joining the rhythm on his own terms. He doesn't try to use a word he doesn't understand just to fit the secret code. He finds that when he speaks with confidence, the others listen to his actual meaning. Chloe asks him what he thought about the cinematography, and he answers truthfully. He is no longer a traveler in a strange land. He is a resident with his own accent. He sees Maya at her usual spot and gives her a respectful nod across the room. She smiles back, her book still open, but her eyes are bright and engaged. Leo understands now that authentic English isn't about the size of your vocabulary. It is about the courage to be understood, even if you don't have the secret code. He has found a middle ground, a place where his real voice can live and breathe. The final bell of the semester rings, sounding less like a scream and more like a celebration. Leo walks into the cafeteria, but he does not scan the room for an exit or a hiding spot. He carries his tray to the center table, moving with a steady, unhurried pace. Jax is there, arguing with someone about a new song that just dropped an hour ago. "It's mid," Jax says, looking at Leo as he approaches the group. "Right, Leo?"
Leo sits down and unwraps his sandwich, taking a moment to think before he speaks. "I don't know, Jax," Leo says, meeting his eyes. "I think the lyrics are actually pretty deep." He doesn't use a vague smile or a quiet nod to hide his true opinion. The table doesn't go silent this time. Instead, Chloe leans in to hear his explanation. "What do you mean by deep?" she asks, her phone resting face down on the table. Leo explains his thoughts using his real voice, the one he discovered with Maya. He realizes that fitting in was never about mastering a secret shifting vocabulary. It was about having the confidence to bring his own language to the conversation. Across the room, he sees a new student sitting alone, staring at a tray with wide, nervous eyes. The student is doing the slow blink, trying desperately to look like they belong. Leo remembers the weight of the invisible wall and the exhaustion of the Friday night scrawl. He finishes his lunch and stands up, but he doesn't head straight for the exit. He walks over to the new student's table and pulls out a chair with a friendly smile. "The first week is always a bit of a glitch," Leo says, using the word correctly and calmly. The student looks up, the tension in their shoulders dropping just a fraction of an inch. "I'm Leo," he adds, extending a hand. "If you need a translation, just let me know." Leo realizes he is no longer an outsider looking in. He is a guide for those still lost. He has moved from the unspoken code to a place of genuine human connection. The story ends not with a perfect secret code, but with a simple, open conversation. Leo walks out of the cafeteria, finally at home in his own skin and his own words. That brings us to the end of The Quiet Outsider. Leo's journey reminds us that while slang and secret codes change every week, the value of being yourself never goes out of style. We saw how Leo moved from hiding behind a vague smile to finally using his real voice to connect with others. Learning English isn't just about memorizing the most popular words on social media. It is about having the courage to ask questions and share your true perspective. If you've ever felt like an outsider at the lunch table, remember that even the people speaking the loudest are often just looking for a way to fit in, too. Don't be afraid of the glitches in your conversation. They are often the moments where real connection begins. Check the quiz section below description box for the full list of idioms and vocabulary from today's story to help you master your own unspoken code. And now, tell me in the comments, have you ever felt like you were in a room where everyone was speaking a secret code that you didn't understand? What was the one slang word or phrase that confused you the most when you first started learning English? If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories. Thank you for watching, and keep practicing your authentic voice. I will see you in the next story. Goodbye.